When you need to deliver a written message, you have a variety of methods at your disposal, such as snail mail, email, chat, greeting cards, and so on. And you can adapt and deliver your message to fit the audience and the occasion. When it comes time to deliver your oral presentation or a speech, you must do the same thing. You need to consider the various methods and how you design your message to be delivered for the audience and the occasion via the various delivery methods. And that's what this short video will focus on, a few basics of delivery style, starting with the similarities and differences between public speaking and conversation, the 4 basic methods of delivery, and a very brief reminder of some of the characteristics of speech delivery. One way to think about public speaking in most of today's world is as enlarged conversation. We tend to prefer a conversational style over a stilted, more dramatic style, which is what most people visualize when thinking about public speaking. We prefer to be talked with rather than talked at. A public speech, then, can be thought of as a conversation between a speaker and an audience. However, there are 3 key differences between public speaking and conversation. The first being that, unlike most conversations, public speaking is planned. You must prepare, organize, in many cases research, as well as practice, and you rarely put as much planning into a conversation. A second difference is that public speaking is more formal than conversation in terms of language choice, posture, eye contact, and even attire. There are more rules to follow in public speaking than in conversation. And finally, when applying the elements of the basic communication model, the roles of senders and receivers, or in the case of public speaking, the speaker and the audience, are more clearly defined. When you're delivering a speech, you are primarily playing the role of a sender for an extended period of time, while the audience is primarily playing the role of receivers. In conversation, however, the roles of senders and receivers switch back and forth, often very rapidly. We turn next to the 4 basic methods of delivery, which you will find in virtually every public speaking textbook: speaking from a manuscript, speaking entirely from memory with no notes, speaking with little or no preparation, or impromptu speaking, which is often referred to as off the cuff, implying that you weren't prepared to speak and you had to hurriedly write your notes on your sleeve cuff before you stepped to the podium. And speaking extemporaneously, when you are speaking conversationally off brief notes. You have prepared and usually practiced your presentation, but unlike a memorized delivery, the exact wording is selected at the time you are presenting. Now, there's a time and a place for all of these delivery styles. A manuscript speech is appropriate when it is important that you get the wording exactly right, for example, at a press conference. However, it's really hard to make it sound like you are speaking and not just reading. A memorized delivery might be the best method for a short speech. However, even if you can memorize well, and many of us aren't very good at that, you often sound memorized, and that can be very off-putting. And if you are at an event where you are not expected to be prepared, impromptu might be appropriate. But impromptu often comes off disjointed and, well, unprepared. To deliver a good impromptu speech, you should be knowledgeable about the subject, able to organize quickly, and be an experienced speaker. Extemporaneous has been called the most natural of all methods of prepared delivery. It is the most like the enlarged conversation that we just discussed. The extemporaneous delivery style is the preferred speaking style in business, as well as for most audiences and most situations. In school, most of us prefer instructors who know their material and can speak well off their notes. It's obvious that they are prepared, but they're not reading to us, and as is often the case with memorized and manuscript speeches, they are not reading at us. They sound natural. They are talking with us. Many people confuse the impromptu and extemporaneous delivery styles. Now, what's the difference? Impromptu means that you've had no to very little preparation. You had no idea that you were going to speak and didn't have the time to prepare. In fact, no one would have expected you to have been prepared. Some call it speaking off the top of your head, an idiom defined by the Free Dictionary as without careful thought or investigation. Extemporaneous means that you are very well prepared, but you haven't memorized your word order. You are thoroughly familiar with the organization and content of your speech and just need a few glimpses at your notes to keep you on track. That brings us to our last topic, which is a very brief reminder of the characteristics of speech delivery, the nonverbal aspect of what we see and hear during the speech. Reflecting on what differentiates public speaking from conversation, you'll recall that public speaking is more formal and more planned. And as such, you'll need to pay attention to aspects of your speaking style in public speaking that you might take for granted in conversation. We'll start with what some consider to be the most important, vocal delivery. Your voice can be a very powerful instrument. It must be loud enough to be heard by everyone in your audience without straining, yet not so loud that it overpowers or intimidates. We have to be able to understand you, and that relates to articulation or enunciation, pronunciation, and dialect or accent. You need to have vocal variety, so you need to vary your pitch, which is the highness or lowness of your voice, and your rate or the speed at which you talk. And you need to pay attention to your tone so that you sound sincere, friendly, and knowledgeable. Lack of vocal variety or a monotone will lose your audience's attention or put them to sleep. Vocal delivery also includes your fluency. Are you choppy? Do you have what some call vocalized pauses or vocal disfluencies, fillers, those annoying ums, ahs, and ers? If you use words to fill in, now, or like, some call them verbal disfluencies. Now remember, verbal means words, or what my father used to call word whiskers, and I call filler phrases. While the use of these may be very common in conversation, in a formal oral presentation they are at best annoying and can interfere with our ability to process your message, and perhaps even worse, can cast doubt on your credibility as a speaker. Another important characteristic of delivery, particularly in Western culture, is eye contact. You need to look at us, all of us, in a nice, direct, trustworthy fashion. Body movement is another characteristic. How do you move your body, including moving for emphasis, projecting confidence and enthusiasm with your posture and your gestures, and your facial expressions are also part of body movement. You need to show your confidence and enthusiasm in your face as well as your voice. And while it may not involve your physical behavior, you also need to pay attention to your personal appearance, as that contributes to your audience's perception of your delivery style. Processing time. Which of the delivery methods do you prefer as an audience member or as a speaker? And are they the same or different? And which of the characteristics of speech delivery do you find to be the most important? With this basic discussion of delivery, you should be able to approach your next public speaking opportunity knowing what delivery method is most appropriate and the nonverbal aspects that you should pay attention to.